We are concerned not merely with the technical problem of securing and maintaining peace, but also with the important task of education and enlightenment.
Let's do a small session here. We were talking at the beginning, and I said we wanted to talk about this. Let's talk about the marks on the body.
Oh yeah. Well, there we go. Chase, Chase and I both experienced a very similar thing. For Chase, I think he was in like a meditative state, essentially trying to make contact with whatever this is, and me, the exact same thing. I was just getting into meditation. It's Desta's fault. She was the one helping me. She was the one giving me guidance. So obviously she left something out of the equation, because you got my ex-girlfriend's legs all scratched up, Desta. Thank you.
That's why she's left. She's turned the camera.
That's right. She knew it was coming.
But it quite literally, and I can color it, fill it in with a pen or something, because I quite literally eventually woke up bleeding from the wrist. And my girlfriend's like, yeah, for the last couple of months, you've been saying someone's been grabbing you from the wrist. I go to Google right away. It's like, this is the first step in sleep apnea. Sleep, paralysis. But then it said right there, people don't develop sleep paralysis. They have it their life long, and you notice it your entire life, whatever. But I was clear as day, feeling someone grab my hand, their knuckles, like their fingers and their skin. And then I would wake up and like pull my hand away, like, who's that? And no one's there. And then sure enough, I got a triangle, blood going down my wrist all over the pillow. So we had to throw the pillowcase away, couldn't get the blood out of it. But
have you got a photo of it? I mean, how big was it?
It's actually about the size of my pinky nail. Like, I'm covering it right now with my pinky. Like, that's how small it is. But it's just right there, right in the corner. It's hard to see because I don't have any lighting here. Yeah. But
okay.
I'll take a picture of it eventually to show you in some sort of contrast.
And you had a triangle sighting. That's sort of how it started for you, right?
Yeah, I don't like making those connections, because now I think, why would they mess with me like this? But yes, my mother and I don't want to get into the long story, but 1996, very close, some spooky action. The thing just hovered silently, made the trees flex over. It moved over a swamp, took off very slowly. It was just like this kind of mundane, but rather mind-blowing experience. And everyone just TR3B. Well, if that was the case, we've had TR3B since goddamn the Middle Ages, for Christ's sake. So I don't know what. It gets a little obnoxious, but yeah, there might be a connection there. And now that you told me that people have that, I didn't know that was a thing. I did Google it, and some people wake up with scars. Some people wake up with a triangle on the back of their leg or something. Yeah, I had never seen the wrist thing.
You'll actually see it in the triangle book. There was a woman that helped me edit it, and then I sent it to Desta for final editing and stuff. And she had two triangles the same night. I remember Desta and I think we were at Mark Olson's place photographing orbs for, running around photographing these orbs that had the faces in them and stuff like that. And this woman sent the photos to Mark, who we were at his house, and he said, look at these. And the one was completely filled in. It was red, it was completely filled in, and it was fairly big, maybe, I don't know, half an inch or something, completely equilateral. And the one on the other wrist was had lines in it. It was, you could see the outline, it had the lines across it. It wasn't filled in. And one on one wrist, one on the other wrist. And that leads to the question of, why would they put a triangle? So what's your answer? Why would they put a triangle or do anything to you in the middle of the night? What do you think that's all about?
I used to, I joked around the last time you asked, Matt, because I don't think I'm special at all. I kind of get annoyed sometimes by the amount of ego people claim to have when they're supposedly, got rid of that. But I just assume that it has to be something greater than I can understand. I mean, to get real basic with it, does a gorilla know why the German university student is taking its DNA and sending it through the internet to a university on the other side of the country to break down their genetics over the course of like decades? No, of course the gorilla doesn't know that. And so maybe that's as simple as it is. And maybe it's as complex as, I am a special being and I need to they need to watch me. Why would they save me? I spend most of my days eating Count Chocula and smoking weed, so I don't know what would be the point of saving me and doing all this stuff. Am I that big of an antenna or worthwhile project? I don't know.
What about a wake-up call? What about just to get you to go, holy shit, what's going on here?
Well, that's certainly what's happening, because I've spent my entire life addicted to this stuff since I was a kid. And I remember the triangle sighting was followed by almost 2 weeks afterward, like solid 2 weeks afterwards, of seeing my parents pull in the driveway, us kids pointing, and then boom, and the car would explode and it'd be over, and it was like this, do not, hey, just keep your mouth shut about it type of thing. And it only inspired me more. I was so scared about it. I was just like, this is someone, I don't know. And maybe it's myself saving myself my entire life. Maybe me dying as a kid had something to do with it. I don't know. There's just like this I have endless anecdotes, Grant and Desta. I can't even, every day I'll remember something else. My mother would be like, you don't remember how you used to come running out of your room all the time claiming there was a shadow person in there? Like, just random stuff. I don't even remember that stuff. But
have you done a book yet? I always ask. Have you done a book?
Everyone says to write a book, but I am one of the laziest people you will ever meet, and I'm trying so hard to motivate myself. I heard you should get a cocaine addiction before you write a book, but I've never been into it. But so I don't know. But yeah, I do kind of want to incorporate all this stuff because I live a life of like excess adrenaline and these sightings as well. So it's kind of like it's kind of exciting, but at the same time, I haven't learned anything.
Because once you come out in the Triangle book, you'll be famous, and now everybody's going to want to know the rest of the story.
Grant, we have 537 followers on YouTube. Hello, I already am famous.
We'll get it up there. We'll get it up. Don't worry. We'll pump it up today.
I made $6 on Spreaker.
Okay, Chase, your thing, and then I'll tell you a couple stories. Chase, tell us your story where you had this experience.
Well, what experience are we talking
about? With your girlfriend.
Right. So actually, she's had quite a few. This was the most significant, and again, I was on the couch. She turned something on that I had no interest in, and instead of watching it with her, I just zoned out, eyes open, kind of a meditative state, and convinced myself that I was going to contact this light in the sky that I had successfully brought in, my first C5. And she yelps out and says, my leg's burning. We got a blanket over. She pulls the blanket up, and she's got scratches. She's got scratches on her thigh, probably 14 or 15 scratches on her thigh. And then on the back of her calf, same leg, left leg.
Wow.
And they were bad. They were raised. They didn't break the skin, but I mean, they were very noticeable, very, very, scratches. And so I haven't tried to do that again since she had scratches on her leg. I don't want to try it again. And she goes, well, I wrecked the car because, I got scratches on my face. I go, oh, shit. So I don't know, that was confusing because that could be interpreted as a negative experience. And, I don't want to start that kind of thing. Now,
you have to recognize it, though. It could be negative.
It possibly, I don't know.
Chase,
but,
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Can I just say one thing real fast? We had a guest on recently that I just dawned on me, Nathaniel Gillis. What does Nathaniel Gillis say about it? I mean, he's a religious demonologist, so he's trying to join the UAP thing. He says that there are ancient literature that shows that what these beings do to your soul and your emotions manifest themselves on your skin. So like people would find like a writing or something on their skin after, I don't know how, whatever. Anyway, sorry, God, Chase, I just reminded me.
No, it's an interesting hypothesis,
I don't know.
Shari has also had other experiences where, she's had dots on her spine. Right before we started dating, she had a classic UFO abduction event. She woke up, it was bright outside, of course, it's the middle of the night. The insects outside get really loud, and then she goes to sleep, and then her daughter wakes her up later. She sleeps in, and she's got these, bruises on her arm, like this big four-fingered thing came in, in this weird way that, there's no way you could do it. Right around the same time, actually, I was conversing relatively regularly with the former director of the MUFON for Maryland and another state, Maryland, one of the other states around there. Same thing happened to her. Exact same thing, same arm, same bruises, really really peculiar. Nothing like that has ever happened to me as far as I'm aware. Shari has had these kinds of events happen to her all throughout the course of her life. You know, she's had woken up with a big bruise on her thigh as well, from a classic abduction scenario. Things came into her bedroom, picked her up, put her on a table. It was in the kitchen. The kitchen turned into a spaceship or a laboratory setting. They had white suits on. They did stuff to her. They put her back. Another time she was she was living in Houston, and she had bright blue lights come in. You know, the weird blue color that a lot of abductees claim they see came in all of the windows all the way around the place. And this was while she was pregnant with her second daughter. You know, and this is another experience for hers right here. That's a craft. She's driving down the highway, and there's this orb with these lights, and she gets a phone call, and the phone call goes to voicemail, and somebody says, "Are you there?" And she claims that when she listened to the voicemail, that tied every experience in her life together. She immediately realized everything's connected. "Are you there?" is a wake-up call. Like, are you paying attention? You know, and everything we've talked about, she was on with us. She'd be going, "Yeah, it's obvious, guys." You know, it gets a little frustrating talking to her because I go, "Is it like that?" And she goes, "Well, yeah, it's like that. I mean, you know, duh." And you go, "All right, well, I mean, I guess it's not that obvious to me." So yeah, personally though, I haven't had any experiences like that now while consuming in South America. The you know, the God particle or whatever, it's a spirit molecule. I've had some less than ideal experiences as well. I had one where this worm, I was like fighting with this worm parasite thing, and it wrapped around me, and that was the whole experience. And I woke up, and I came back, and I thought, well, now this thing's wrapped around me somewhere, and you know, so I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. I've day to day, minute to minute, as long as I can put my clothes on,
You're doing good.
I'm doing okay. Yeah.
Desta, have you had anything?
Any what?
You know, the body marks or weird things where, and then I'll tell Jim Schaefer's story.
I had years and years of taking pictures of bruises that would randomly come in the middle of the night. And so I took pictures of them, but I would never, I don't think I've ever told anyone because I don't want to make it like like some people can be like, "Oh, they're abducting me and this is my hybrid baby" kind of thing, or this is whatever. But yeah, I had years of that. And I had a handful of, mainly when I noticed the marks would come, as I used to do a bunch of like, a bunch of the dowsing and healing stuff that I kind of do. One of them is like entity removals, which I don't do anymore because I only had negative experiences doing it. But I did notice that a lot of the, because I have to write down for clients, I have to write down the date. And then when I take the pictures, if I have any of the bruises, obviously my phone records the date. So I did notice that a lot of those bruises would come after I was doing these, you know, entity removals or whatever. And I would always have some feeling of something being in the room. I had things like trying to choke me, like some big gigantic, like at the exact same time, like elastic band or something over my throat, choking me, something in my legs, squeezing my legs. I had like this like block of ice kind of thing sitting on my lap once. And after all of them, I got sick after I got sick for a week or two, I was in bed, basically, I got all those bruises. And so I don't do that anymore, obviously, because that was like, it took me a long time to figure out if they were all related, but I knew something was in the room and I got sick after, and that was enough that I don't do it anymore. But yeah, I don't have any memories of anything else happening. I just have the entity removal thing and then these bruises and stuff.
Is that, I'm sorry, Grant.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Desta, I mean, you said earlier that, you know, I think your hypothesis is really close to mine, and that, you know, you think there is no separation and all these things that happen are us, and more or less. So how do you rationalize those experiences? What was that? Is that us just, what is it like to get choked? I'll just choke myself real quick. I mean, I'm just joking, but I mean, honestly, like, do you have you figured out quite, or try to
No,
explain that?
I know that, yeah, I guess that perspective I haven't thought about, but I know that talking to some people that would know more about stuff like that, like you're saying, Nate Gillis or whatever, and I would say Steve Mayer, who's a parapsychologist too, who would like have experience with some of these other entities, is always, you know, and I've read all those old books and stuff of like lower astral beings and all that stuff. Obviously, I learned that stuff, you know, that's exactly the entity removal stuff that I was doing in my for my clients or whatever, is, you know, I've learned about stuff like that, but they don't tell you when you're taking the class of how to remove entities off people, like what's going to happen to you. They just kind of like tell you the theory behind how you're trying to help this person, but they never really mention the fact that it might be then jumping in and staying with you. So yeah, I never thought of it in the way that you're right. If it is this one, you know, thing, is it me trying to give myself a lesson? Because I was always so surprised, thinking if I have the best intentions of trying to help someone, why that I must be protected. And, you know, I think I do my whole like little protection ritual things before I do healing work. But I mean, how do you know, there's enough other stories of people that do any kind of stuff, whether it's healing work and then get these entities, or like you're saying, your girlfriend or whatever, just people in general, just having these experiences. I don't know if there's a way to properly, you know, if anyone knows how to properly protect yourself of any of these things. And so I just didn't really spend much time trying to figure it out. I just stopped doing it, knowing that something not great was happening. So let's just stop.
Is there not something in the literature with people who are doing healing where you take on the illness of the person, or you take on the, where you're grabbing there's a negative energy that person has got and you're pulling it off them, you take it onto yourself, and that's what removes it from them?
Totally. And I know that one of the teachers that I had, I was pretty surprised to hear this, but he was really busy. You know, like booked up for 6 months into the future kind of thing all the time. And I asked him once, like how he got so many clients, or like who these people were, like how so many people knew about him, because he wasn't really well known. And he said, most of my clients are like energy workers. It's actually people that are supposed to be helping other people and they can't help themselves. So he said he was like, you know, trying to help the energy workers clear themselves. And I just thought, I don't know if that's really, you know, I get that whole thing, Grant, you know, yeah, you take on you're taking something on. But the thing is, if you then need to go get help, you're helping someone just so you can go get help. I mean, is that really helping someone? Because then you need the help.
But did you need help? Did you need help after that, or did you just take it on and you dissipated, that you pulled it off them? I mean, is there indications? It's not like you take off cancer and then suddenly you get cancer. But I just heard this thing where you're sort of taking it and
to transmuting it. Some of the things say that, and I learned that in some of those classes. Like you're supposed to be like the you know, they call it transmuting. So you're supposed to take even if it's Reiki or whatever, you take it and then you somehow should know how to ground it, or
ground it.
Something like that.
You gotta ground it.
But
that was a great X-Files episode, by the way. Does anyone remember? The shaman, he ate the people and then regurgitated them back up and they were fine again.
Oh, right.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Good one.
Sorry, I even spoke.
Well, and even shamans, like any of those people, right, are supposed to be doing it. But it's like, I don't know. I just felt like there was something in the house after these really big ones that I did. I felt something in the room. I felt like, and I was like, I'm on a Zoom call with this person. All of a sudden I feel something like squeezing my neck, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, how am I supposed to know what to do with this? And then I was really sick, and then I got all those bruises for weeks and weeks after that. And I thought, so yeah, is it me? Am I giving myself the bruises right after? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's that.
The power of the mind can obviously make people do. I mean, look at phantom limb, look at false pregnancies, look at all these things that just like people can manifest their whole entire. They just change in general, and the next thing you know, there's no baby.
I like the House of Mirrors idea, you know, and maybe it's, you know, and you know, when you were practicing in that way, your clients had these things that they manifested, these issues that they directly manifested, and then by helping them, you know, you're interacting with these reflections of them, and maybe, you know, there's some resonant energy or something that sticks around that you have to get rid of somehow. I don't know, but yeah, that's another part of this, what are you supposed to make with getting choked or a worm crawling around, and you're going, oh no, it's just
Yeah. Now
why not? Why not?
Now let me give you the theory of wow. Bud Hopkins and Jacobs and these guys, they had lots of these people, and I had the scoop mark, and it was the big thing back in the day. It's like, oh, you got a scoop mark, you were abducted. And it's like the interview would say, oh, they're taking a skin sample. It's like, oh yeah, they need to take a skin sample. Yeah, right. So they're doing a scoop mark, and then everybody would show off their scoop mark, or they'd have the implant. I even got one in my left wrist. And so you look at this kind of stuff. I remember Jim Schaefer, who lived with us in Winnipeg. And one time, Jim, I don't know if you've ever seen the photo, he photographed this. He wakes up in the middle of the night and his hair is all wet. He's got his hands, and his hair is all wet. And he's going, what is going on? So he goes to the bathroom, turns on the light. There's blood all over his hands. He's going, what the heck? And he takes the mirror and he looks, and in the crown of his head, there's a Y. It just looked like a Y cut into the top of his head. And he showed me this photograph, and he was really angry. And he said, why would they do this to me? And I said, I don't know, maybe they're trying to get your attention and you weren't paying attention. So they said, let's give him something that he can't deny, because there's no way. And so he had this Y cut in his forehead, and he said he was so embarrassed. And it was a deep cut too. He was so embarrassed that he didn't want to go to the hospital to get it stitched up. So he just sort of left it and let it heal over. And then he has the famous healing experience, where he has the lymph node tumor on his neck, and it's this big, huge tumor, and this ball of light comes off, down through his dirty clothes, which he's really embarrassed about, and then up, and he films this as it's going into his body, as one of the more dramatic films ever taken. And he suddenly gets up, and then he goes to the bathroom, and the tumor is gone. And so he's supposed to have the cancer operation on the Tuesday or something. He goes to the oncologist, and the oncologist said, what happened? He said, it just disappeared. And he said, it doesn't disappear. What do you mean? What do you mean it happened? He said, I think it went away Sunday morning.
That's
so he
crazy.
said the oncologist, he didn't tell the oncologist what happened, but he went and told his doctor, because the doctor had seen the cut. And then all the doctor would say is, play that again, play it again. You made him play this video of this orb going into his body. He was just fascinated with this whole thing.
Another synchronicity right there. I just want to say real quick, my mother told me a story just recently. She said, I had a paranormal experience. When I was younger, I hurt my knee on the horse, and I had this weird vision of a ball of light hitting me. The next morning she woke up, her leg was fine. Yeah. And this was like 25 years ago. And she goes, hey, my leg hurts now for the first time in 25 years. I just talked about it for the first time ever. Now my leg hurts.
Wow.
So are these things jerks? They're like, oh, you talked about taking away.
And you take the other thing where I talked to, like, Jim had a lot of weird stuff, and now he died of COVID, but he had a lot of weird stuff. So I'd say to him, like, the thing of the theory of wow, I'd say, hey Jim, you ever heard these stories about people where they put their clothes on inside out and backwards, and you wake up? He says, you want a photograph? It's happened to me a couple of times. I took a photograph, and he gives me this photograph of his shirt inside out and backwards when he wakes up. Or they have a different shirt on, or like the whole thing where what's his name from Denver? He claimed that he had Betty Hill's nightgown on, and these kind of things where you come with somebody else's clothes, and I was abducted, and all I have is this t-shirt. And when he woke up, he didn't have the t-shirt. So he said, somebody else is walking around with this t-shirt on. And it was this fear, wow, where they're doing these really weird things to make you go, what is going on? Like, why would you put a triangle on somebody's wrist? That makes no sense whatsoever, except to make the person go, what the hell is going on here? Because it's no doubt the ones that this Karen had, if you see them, they're not sort of triangles. They are as clear as day, and they're big, and they're colorful, and it's like, wow. And the same night, two different triangles. And you see this over and over again with this weird sort of thing. And I think, Desta, I think you can agree that this happens in seances and stuff like that, where people get scratches and this sort of stuff. It's part of this, whether it's whatever. It's just kind of interesting.
I hold out that there's dark things out there as well. I mean, there's a reason why these people that are all into like CE5 stuff nowadays talk about that intention. Make sure you have a good intent. Like Josh talked about Jay about that. And I guess Jay tried to tell us before, like Science Bob, I think it was, that told him that, I don't even think he's into CE5 as far as I know, but told him that there are bad things out there. So go with the intention. Sean K. says the same thing. If you're going to go meditate and try to make contact, have an intention. I mean, maybe we're not exactly always seeing a reflection back of what we're afraid of or something like that, because I mean, I know some of the most intelligent people, right, that wanted to go out to like Skinwalker Ranch, come back with like a horrific story or something, and these people just were there for open, honest, you know, scientific research. And I don't know, I just hold out for the idea that maybe everything out there isn't just this, you know, benevolent thing. You know, maybe there is some things out there that you're setting out these signals, they hear it, they show up, they have no interest in answering your questions, helping you, doing anything at all. They're kind of interested in messing with you. The same way a DMT entity messes with you. It freaking messes. You want to see the secrets of the world? Come look over here. Meanwhile, it's a pizza with like a, you know, swordfish on. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I've seen they often talk about the jesters. The experiencers often talk about the jesters and how they do these flips, and you know, they like make these weird things. And I've had an experience where they were all around an opening into some other experience, and they were all doing that, you know, and you just go, what the hell is this? Like, why are you dancing around? And what's the, you know, it's, yeah.
But is there a
bizarre.
separation from the one? Is there actually an evil thing out there that's separate from the one that comes in, or has somebody manifested this evil energy, made it? It's almost like in the physical world, we can build a house, we can build a house in the other world with negative energy or whatever, and you're picking it up on it. What do you think about that?
I always say that maybe it's a remote viewer or something, or someone that's humans are bad. We know humans can be bad. Maybe it's just some people that really got good at it and they're just screwing with people right now.
Because you talked about Skinwalker Ranch. I can give you the story of Skinwalker Ranch, because
Yeah.
George Knapp didn't have any experiences, and Bob Bigelow didn't have any experiences till the very end. And George Knapp said those that were the most aggressive to the phenomena had the worst experiences. The guys, and when you see Bob Bigelow said, when I saw what they did to the government guys, I decided it was time to sell the ranch. These were the special forces guys that were armed to the hilt, who got the message and said, leave, you are not welcome. And then the poltergeist things follows them home, and there's wine bottles flying around the room and stuff like that. Where and then you ask Bigelow, so they asked Bigelow the whole thing. They said, okay, so what was it all about? You had the Skinwalker Ranch for like 8 or 10 years or whatever. What was it all about? And he said it was messaging. It's all about messaging. It's gaming and messaging. That was his conclusion after all this weird stuff that happened there. And people have the influence, but you had people who had no experiences, people who had good experiences, people who had bad experiences. And according to George Knapp, the ones that were most aggressive had the bad experiences. And that's this reflection thing.
And maybe that's why the good intention is so important, because, and again, even with like ceremonial magical processes that have been happening for thousands of years, those people all know, even back in the 1500s, right? Everyone knew that you had to have a good intention. You had to like set up things to be making sure that you're having contact with the right thing, not the demons, but the angels or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think people have known that for a super long time. So maybe it's, you know, gone down the line because of that, because everyone knows that there is other things and you somehow need protection from those other things, or you need to set up your ritual to make sure that you're, you know, protecting yourself. Why were they protecting themselves in the 1500s? How would they know in the 1500s they needed to protect themselves? But the other thing is, sorry, but one quick thing is, the other thing is it could still be humans. I don't believe that. I believe that there's lots of lower astral entity kind of things. And from my own experiences and things that I've read, you know, I do think there's things like that. But here's one of my favorite books I always like to plug is this book called 30 Years Among the Dead. I always forget the guy's name, but it was written in like the 20s or 30s or something. And it's written by a guy who is a psychiatrist, and his wife was a medium. So she wasn't really a medium, but she was just someone who could, like, you know, go into a meditation and then somehow have these entities come in her and communicate through her. So what they did is the whole entire book is a case study of hundreds of cases. It's a huge book from like the 20s or 30s or something, where him and his wife would go to psych wards where usually women were admitted by their husbands because they were, you know, driving them crazy. So, you know, in those days, the guys could just like go drop their wives off because they were being annoying to the psych ward or whatever. But a lot
Make America great again.
Paul Wickman.
Paul Wickman, yeah. The Wickmans, yeah. And but it's a fascinating book because every person that was like admitted to these psych wards, mostly women, who maybe were schizophrenic, they thought they were schizophrenic or crazy in some way. So they would sit there, this husband and wife team. The husband would say to the, you know, person that was admitted, the person that was supposed to have psychosis in some way, like, okay, if there's any beings inside of you, come to my wife and talk to me through my wife. I want to ask you some questions. And then all of a sudden the wife would like go into a trance-like state, and then the being would come off of the patient into the woman, into the wife. Then the husband would say, like, you know, who are you? And he would say, like, John Gray or something. And he would say, like, what are you doing? What? And he's just like, oh, this woman is so annoying. Why is she always around? I can't get rid of her. She's always like with me. What's the deal? And then John would say, what year do you think it is? And he would say, like, 1890. And they're like, no, it's 1920. What's the last thing you would remember? Oh, I was fighting with my whatever, my wife, and then I got a bump on the head, and then all of a sudden no one could see me anymore, and I would like be trying to talk to my family and everyone was ignoring me, those assholes. And then this woman came along and I, like, you know, wanted to go with her or whatever. And so basically it's kind of like entity attachment, but without it being, you know, lower astral entities. It's literally spirits of dead people who, especially in those days, maybe didn't have religious beliefs, didn't know that they died because they died so suddenly, then kind of just like attach themselves to, whether it's a lot of women because they were, you know, more sensitive or empathic or something or whatever, who knows. And then these women would go around and get admitted to the psych ward by their husband because they would be saying that there's something on me, there's something, you know, there's something on me, or I'm hearing voices, or this person is always yelling at me. And these spirits would be driving these women crazy. And they would think that they had schizophrenia, when meanwhile it was just always. So anyway, so this John Wickman would say to the spirit, like, you know, don't you want to go see your family? You know, you died. The hit on the head was because you got killed. You're dead. It's 1920. We're in LA or something. And meanwhile, this guy died in Texas or something. And then he would say, like, you know, picture someone who you know who died. You know, do you remember, you know, was your mom dead or whatever when you were alive? Like, can you see her now? Go with her. And then all of a sudden the woman who was in the psych ward was 100% fine. She was like, and she's like, that was the person who was on me. He was driving me crazy. And it's just these regular humans, regular spirits that die, don't know what they're doing, somehow get attached to someone and then end up driving them crazy. So it could also be that it is just like you're saying, Jeff, as shitty humans. These things that are entity attachments could most of the time just be humans that, you know, spirits that don't know that they've died and don't know what they're doing and are just like attached to someone driving them crazy now.
I hate to keep plugging, not that, hey, he's a good guy, but I'll plug him again. I'm sure he's kind of new to UFO stuff, so he's trying to relate his background in religious demonology to ufology, which, you know, he came up with the theory of wow all by himself, but he didn't. It's not the theory of wow for a good thing. It's theory of wow for a bad thing. They do these things to get people talking about it because it makes it easier to get inside of them. You know, it makes it easier to interact with them when everyone's talking about this stuff. And I don't know, you think back to all these anecdotal accounts of like the from history that it has nothing to do with aliens. It's all what you're talking about. And what we made the jump to aliens just like kind of recently. So maybe everything that we're experiencing today isn't really that different. It's these lost soul types of things. I know a lot of this stuff goes hand in hand with poltergeists, ghost activity, all this
I've
stuff.
had a lot of that. I've had
Yeah,
doors slamming in the house. I've had, you know.
Why are we talking about aliens? And why? In the first, it's like probably our longing because we feel so alone here. But it's the same story. It's the same concept. I don't know. I'm kind of nervous about that side of it because I do believe there is dark stuff out there. You go and you close your eyes long enough and it might get you. But
well, I think.
Yeah, been in the army too long. Been in the army too long.
Oh, that's. I tell you what, right now though, the hypervigilance definitely did it for me because I don't know. I'm not at the point in my life where I'm ready to make the very classic psychological evolution that anyone goes through with trauma. It's just a fact. Your house catches on fire at 4 years old. You're afraid of fire. Suddenly you become a fire chief when you're it makes no sense, but somehow you work through it and you became this thing. The Strebers, the Lovelaces, all these people that claim to have this horrific trauma. It was the worst. It was, in fact, I don't even want to say the words they used back then because it was beyond horrible nightmares. And now it's all good stuff. Now it's all great. Now we've evolved to articulate in a very beautiful manner that makes it all make sense and whatnot. That's the human side of it. The strange side was the cuts on the skin while sleeping, Was the anal probing, was the weird nightmarish activity, the doctor-like visit, that's what happened. Where do we, the human side of all these experiences eventually try to turn it, in my opinion, into something positive. Not all experiences are bad and all experiences are good, but one thing is for sure, if you have a bad experience, but 90% of the people in this field will evolve it into being like a positive thing. And I personally want to put if I was going to bet, not everything out there is good. Not everything out there is bad.
Same thing. Yeah. But it's the same thing. Whitley Strieber's people that he had the bad experience with at the beginning is the same people he's dealing with now. So it may just be the fear that when you manifest, you have fear, you're going to manifest a real bad experience. You're not going to lay still on the table. You're going to fight. You're going to try to kill these things or whatever. And once you understand what's going on, then because what you see is you see the beings. That's the other thing that I say. It's not as simple as you think. Because when I talked to Nancy Tremaine, the last interview I did with her, she said, I said, well, when did you actually see this thing as a reptilian? She said, I was like 2 or 3 years old. And I saw him when he was 2 or 3 years old and his scales were moving or whatever. And then when she's 12 years old, she saw him and his name, she called him Mister, because she said she got the Greys were there and the Greys were sticking this thing like a needle. She was before Betty and Barney Hill. And she put her hands on her hips and she says, Mister, why did you let them do that to me? And he was a human being with dark hair. And then now she says he's an etheric being. He's like Chris Bledsoe's has turned into an etheric being too. It was a tall 7-foot bluish green being. And now it's an etheric being wearing a hood, like an energy being. And you see the beings are changing. So the experience is changing. Most of the bad experiences are the first one. And because the fear is there and the anger is there. And then they suddenly turn into like Chris Bledsoe. He sat there for 9 months in his room and prayed for God to take him away. I mean, he had nothing to do with this. Life was shattered. And then he suddenly got regressed and he suddenly realized what was going on. And now he's like the Messiah. You can't shut the guy up.
Well, I guess I agree with everything you're saying there, because that could possibly be happening. I guess what I'm directly referring to is when Whitley will say things like, if I hadn't moved, I wouldn't have been injured. If he hadn't have been ass probed, he wouldn't have been injured, period. That's all I mean. Because he said that the other day on a podcast, and all I thought was, if I just submitted, I would have been okay. That is the opposite of how humans are, though. I mean, I couldn't imagine, I've never been in that scenario, and maybe that's just what you're saying, Grant, is exactly what happens. He didn't realize, and that he's projecting how bad it is. But when he still agrees today that he was anally probed against his will, or Travis Walton, they shot me with a laser and then they fixed me, or it's like
but it's our perception of
it.
It's the human
what would
perception.
Be the purpose of jamming it up?
But that's your perception, is that anal probing is so bad, which is probably most people's perception. But the other thing is a little tiny cut on your wrist. We murder people all the time. We murder animals all the time. People torture each other and torture animals all the time. For something to be putting a little tiny cut on your wrist, who the hell cares?
Jeff, this is
a perfect example of what I'm saying.
This is a day here. This is a day of awakening.
You want to have control, but we're not in control. Maybe
I never gave anyone my permission to stick a triangle on my arm.
You need to normalize it, Jeff.
Well, maybe you
Get
did.
with the times. Come on.
Maybe you did agree to that. That's the whole point of soul
yes,
care.
Maybe
that's
you
too.
that.
That's too.
Well, I don't like it.
My question
is us. I was just going to say, if it is us, so if this is you trying to give yourself a message, so if the anal probe is something that you're so shocked and horrified over, maybe that's the reason you're going to get it one day. So
I'm sorry, Desta. I'm sorry. Is someone here not horrified by the idea of that? Is someone in this group? What?
Oh God!
I'll tell you right now. I don't care what anyone says to me in this moment. If anyone tells me that it's a good thing to be anally probed by a stranger, go take.
It's gonna happen one day, Jeff.
Yeah, I will. That's why I'm gonna put
Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a chastity belt and go to sleep with that on.
One of the questions would be, what's offended, your spirit or your ego?
Ego. Your ego is what roots you here. Obviously, I mean, if you look what happened to Whitley, he told everyone what happened to him, and the whole world made fun of him. So the biggest, what roots him here as a human, what keeps him is this, it was most affected by it. So now this non-physical thing interacted with him, ruined his life, and he's got to spend his entire life fighting the idea, quit ruining my, the aliens already messed with me. Now you're going to, I feel like the ego roots you here so drastically bad. That's why we shed it when we go to these places. That's basically the one, it's almost like the router in this world, in our bodies, what keeps us here and what keeps us human. So I think that you got to deal with a lot of that through this. But again,
maybe it's not quite as straightforward as that, though. You know, maybe we think, obviously we have our own ways of thinking about getting anally probed or someone being anally
we all agree.
But hold on, maybe it has to do with, you know, Strieber's interactions and the results from that experience that led him to focus on the ego. Maybe that was the whole point. And maybe it's like you hear these people talk about the difference between 3D and 4D and 5D and 6D, you know, and a 4-dimensional object in a 3-dimensional space is just you know, it's a slice or a sliver of, maybe that interaction or you know, it is not, how do you eloquently say maybe an anal probe isn't really an anal probe? I don't know.
Yeah, or that it has a purpose, like Nancy Tremaine. So they're getting your sperm. They're you know, doing your prostate. They're getting your sperm. Nancy Tremaine had the needle stuck in her, and she was very angry about it. And when she said to Mister, he said something to the effect, "Your pain was just perceived. Your
pain was perceived.
Your pain was perceived. Put the best construction on everything," or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. And that's this idea where, not to offend Whitley, but Whitley still hasn't gotten over this. And you got to wonder how much of his life has been destroyed because he's continues to bring this up and play the victim thing. I mean, you know, it's the idea that's, you know, these things happen, and when you go back and look at them, you can see them in two different perspectives. But it's yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, but the Mark thing is really weird because it doesn't make, or you brought up Travis Walton, and it's a perception thing as well. So Travis has this idea, and people got upset about it when Travis all he remembers was being on the ship and being outside, and he's running around, and this guy with the helmet on or whatever. He doesn't remember anything. The only reason Whitley Strieber or Travis Walton is famous is because he's gone for 5 days. And maybe that's what they did, is they took him for 5 days just because they said, boy, this will really get some attention. And then they took the bull, like at Skinwalker Ranch, they took a bull for 10 days. And then they put the bull back in beside a field. It was all wet, but there was no footprints in the field and stuff like that. And so he has the perception that he was zapped and killed. He has a perception of evil. And he said they brought him back to life, and that's the way he interprets it. But the other interpretation is, no, they took him just because they wanted a big stage thing. He was the first, he was taken in 1975 at the same time when the nuclear weapons storage area thing was happening at Malmstrom and Loring Air Force Base and all these. He was taken in the middle of that thing, November of 1975. And if you look at it on the wider spectrum, there may be a very clear reason that he's the most famous experiencer there is. He's got a lot of benefit from this experience where he really doesn't have anything really to tell about the beings or the experience itself. He's only famous because of the fact that he was taken for 5 days.
It certainly was. It's a cornerstone of ufology now too, and the things that happened to him can be heard, you know, throughout. But yeah, did Travis have any markings on him or anything like that? I remember that was one of Phil Klass's bullshit comments was he fell on the ground and there was no scuff marks on his back. I don't know what he didn't come back with anything, did he, like on his body or
no? Actually, and exactly the opposite. You know the story about the trees, that the trees in the circle were increased in strength, or they were making more. The
growth rings were coming out towards the center.
And Travis, I remember I lectured with him. He was in Oregon. We were there, and he said, you know, I have never been sick a single day since my experience. And then in the middle of the lecture, he plopped over. He passed out in the middle of bring in the ambulance.
Just like my mother with a knee.
And he fought it off. He said, no. And he got up and he continued his lecture or whatever. But that was the thing he said. He'd never been sick a day since in the event. And he was, you know, he's what, 60 years old now. And it's many, many years. He said, never been sick a day in his life. Well, but you hear we just interviewed Preston Dennett. If you want to get him on your show, he has the second top selling book now. I have to get him on again. He's got this 25 year experience on board or whatever. Yeah. But we did the one with the 300 healing people, where you see these patterns. Or he has 100 cases where they went over schools. We interviewed him about that. 100 cases of drive-in movie theaters, and you start seeing these patterns of them doing these really bizarre things. where like Flaming Lips, the lead singer for Flaming Lips, that's how he had it. His experience was being in a drive-in movie theater, and these 5 UFOs were over top of the drive-in movie theater. And you see these patterns. And to me, it always comes down to, is there a message there? Is that what's going on? Because they're doing these bizarre things that don't make any sense. Like as I said, the second night, and which I guess the lesson I didn't get for 40 years, but the second night, I only realized this about a month ago. The second night, it came directly at us, it was flashing around, it was jumping around the sky, and it flew directly at us, then made a left-hand turn and flew off into the northeast. And then I'm thinking, like a month ago, I'm going, why did it just not fly from the west side of the horizon where it came from into the northeast? Why did it have to come at me, make the turn and go? I mean, why would it not go in a straight line? Why did it make this little come towards me? And then you start realizing, like, maybe this was all intentional. Maybe this was all planned. They wanted to get my attention, and they weren't really doing anything. They were just getting my attention.
Grant, if anyone is proof positive that something can be happen by just showing yourself in a weird way in the sky, it's you, is it not? I mean, you weren't super into UFOs. No. You see these things, you have the experience, and it changes your entire life. And now everyone knows who you are. You're an encyclopedia when it comes to the topic. You can talk about anything when it comes to the topic, and you never stop researching it. So obviously it worked.
Well, but I think that's the same with all of us, is that I don't think any of us planned to have the experiences we had. Like when you had that triangle sighting, when you were young, I mean, it's not like you're planning, but it gets your attention big time. And I don't know, did your brother ever come involved? Because that's what happened. That's the thing that amazed me as well. I used to take tours of people, because these things were on the ground, these small orb type objects, which now we call them ground lights at the time. They didn't even have the word orb. So we were trying to film these things in infrared and flashing lights at them and stuff like that. And I was taking tours of people. I probably took 100 or more people out there. I was the only person that ever did anything with it. Everybody else just went on with their life, like as nothing had happened. And why did it affect me so bad? So you and I and Chase and Desta, we see something and we get flipped off the edge of the earth. And that comes back to the thing. Maybe this was all intended, that we put it in front of us. The Desta was to see this UFO flying around, and she was going to chase it down the street and stuff like that. And the same with me, as you start realizing maybe it's not a random world the way we think it is, that we planned this to move us into a field where we're going to do something. And it's not a random world.
Oh, that at least gives me hope, at least. But I will say that I completely agree. That's why I said the DMT thing earlier, or the awakening, or getting a message for everyone. It might not do any good. I was there with 7 other people. All of them are like, yeah, so what? We saw a ghost. Who cares? Saw a ghost. I'm like, we saw a thing that wasn't human, and it was upright and looked at us. It was banging on the walls, and everyone's just like, so what? We had a cool ghost story. What's the big deal?
Yeah, exactly.
Could you imagine?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's just the way I'm afraid it's going to be forever. And I maybe I don't want to say it's the NPC thing, but God, I've been playing simulations my entire life. It started in 1996 when Ultima Online hit the internet, had the first ecosystem that supported itself. You saw NPCs. You just walked in the middle of the woods, just guys cutting trees. Hello there, and like it's just like this complete. And it's kind of like what this is. I don't think that you 3 are NPCs, but good God, how many people have you met that you can hear a song and you're like, I know it's subjective, but these words mean something. You can hear a joke and think that's one of the best jokes, or the poetry, and yet someone else will look at it. They don't want to peel the onion back. They want to talk about monster trucks or something.
Right. I think that's just part of the spectrum, though, is that some people are going to be more interested than others. Some people are not going to want their normal worldview challenged. My ex-wife was the same way. She was there for the CE5. She came out, I showed her, she freaked out, said, I know they're real, don't care, don't want you to do it anymore, stop, I just want to live a normal life. Like, you don't care about the lights in the sky that appear when you think about lights appearing in the sky? That's not something you want to think about? Nope. Just want to go to the store, go eat, come home, go to bed.
And that's the general pattern. I think that's, people always complain to me. They say, oh, my wife and husband doesn't understand. I say, that's the pattern. Get used to it. I don't think it's ever been any different. I remember my ex-wife said at one point, she said, I think this is demonic. And I thought to myself, this is not good. This might be going anywhere. It's like, where do we go with this?
Right.
Can I go back to contact modalities?
That was the beginning of the end right there. Yeah. Demonic, Grant.
Can I go back to contact modalities? Because I want to ask, has anybody done the 5-methoxy DMT, which that seems to be the ultimate thing about, you're in the one, you're in unconditional love, there's no form and stuff like that. Has anybody got access to that? Nobody's done that?
I haven't.
That's where I get fascinated with this stuff. I go like, wow, man, that must be really something to get that awakening where that reality that you hear described in sort of mystical literature.
Trust me though, Grant, when you get your hands on, or when you go to Peru, you'll be totally fine with the NNDMD.
Yeah.
Again, you'll
trying
go,
to figure out how to
oh shit. Oh shit. You know the breakthrough dose of psilocybin. I'm not entirely sure, but I've heard it described as, imagine taking whatever you normally take, 5-7 grams, whatever it is, probably 7 grams. That's what Hopkins does. Is that what you
do? Actually, let me clarify that, because I actually just heard an interview by Roland Griffiths, and he confirms it's 5. I remember there was, I belonged to a psychedelic group out of Toronto, and there was this big fight at what it was. It's like, no, it's not that much and stuff like that. And I heard 8, but he actually said, no, it is actually 5. And he finally clarified what it is. So 5 is the breakthrough. I was actually taking too little. I thought I was doing breakthrough at 4.5 and something like that.
One of the first things I told Desta was that I took 8 grams, nothing happened. Took 5 grams, had one of the craziest trips I ever did. So nothing happened in 8 grams. I saw a single X burn through the sky when I was looking off the balcony. That's it. Nothing. Felt drunk the entire time. 6 hours of, and then I took 5 grams, multiple times, and that's when it was like a real thing. People always said you don't get visuals with psilocybin. You do. You can get them very clear. Eyeballs all over the place, crazy stuff.
With your eyes closed? Did you have a blindfold on?
I got visuals of both. The eyes closed was the peripheral guys. The eyes open was the eyeballs and lizard faces and meatball thing and the bouncing meatball of eyeball nonsense.
That's worse than an anal probe.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll tell you what right now.
You know what?
Take it back. You're right. I would rather be.
Yeah.
I can't shout this because I'm sure the people in the area, but I would rather have been anal probed than sit there for 6 hours seeing lizards going, turn on the TV over and over again. It was crazy. So maybe I don't know.
I think you have the choice, but it's only between those two. It's either the lizard people for hours or just get it over with. Whatever you got to do, just make it quick.
Well, what do you think?
I was just going to say that that I've heard it described or compared to psilocybin as kind of that peak area that you reach when you take a breakthrough dose on cubensis anyway. DMT is like you hit that in like 3 seconds. And the reality, literally, if you consume enough, or you consume a breakthrough dose, or even less than I still have yet to have a breakthrough because I'm frightened of leaving my body. I've gotten to the point where I've been outside of my body and I don't like it. I don't like it. I get outside and I go, I don't have any arms and legs. I'm just here. Like, I don't know what the hell to do. I don't know if I go that way, how the hell I'm going to get back here. And I just go, no, it's not for me.
That's your ego.
I'm all right. I'm okay.
That's your ego,
enough.
Chase.
I know.
Did you hate you not having limbs before you were born?
I've been in that portal I talked about. The portal I talked about. I've been to the threshold of the portal, half in, half out. No. No.
You are.
I have to be thrust into it because otherwise. But what I was going to say is reality will break apart. And I've had experiences where I've been in the bedroom, had my eyes open, I'm looking at the ceiling, and I literally see the ceiling deconstruct itself.
Nice.
And this weird coming back into the body. I say I've had out of body experiences, but there's different types. I've experienced different types, or that's how I would explain my experiences. I don't necessarily know if they're true out of body experiences or who knows, but I've gone other places and come back. And when I come back, you feel the density, the heaviness of the body, the wetness of the body, and then this visual field of geometric patterns that are superimposed over everything that normally is here. It's like Russian nesting dolls, right? You're at the center, you go all the way out, and then $1, $2, $3, and you go, oh shit! And it's all of a sudden, you know, $170,000, and now you're back.
Yeah.
What does that say about sight with
Pardon my,
vision? Because if
language.
you're seeing, especially if you've got like eyes open or something, or you're seeing, what does that say about our vision?
It doesn't exist. Well, I tell you what, the first DMT heavy dosage I did, because I had already hit the thing like 30 times and nothing was happening. I didn't realize that it wasn't on like the appropriate way, but I was already getting weird feelings. But the entire room dematerialized. It was like the exact thing. You ever heard that? You know, like in like a program, a simulation, or a video game, the only thing that your brain is processing is what you're looking at. There's nothing behind you anymore because it's not there. It's simply your brain doesn't perceive it. You can remember that what was behind you, but seriously, it's kind of really hard to look with your brain at what's behind you. And the same kind of concept, like it's like everything breaks in your vision. Everything breaks down into nonsense, all the numbers, all the letters, all the alphabets, all the characters from math you've ever seen, everything, and suddenly it's all gone and your vision doesn't mean anything anymore, but yet you can see.
Wow.
But yet with your eyes closed or open, it's happening to you. And that's where I kind of lean towards that Hoffman guy. I don't know much about him, and Chase introduced me, but like it's almost like the DMT removes those icons you were talking about earlier.
I even
Everyone,
introduced Hoffman to Hoffman.
I hear Hoffman now on every interview I do. I'm getting a little tired of it, but now I'm doing it myself. But
I mean, yeah, I've mentioned it too often.
It's like that though. It's like the icons go away, and now you see what makes up the icons of Earth. You see what was around you wasn't really around you in the first place at all. Though even in your trip, if you can get a hold of your faculties, you can reach out and grab the bedpost or something, and you can feel it.
Yeah.
What you're seeing is not the bedpost though. That's
true.
You're seeing a source of something that you've agreed upon with everyone else, that it's hard and it's a physical thing, but it's not there. You know, it's not there. I don't know. And it's very strange. Your vision goes away. You can still see with the right amount of dosages, the right practice. It's a fine line. I don't think everyone should go out to be the McKenna brothers because one, you're not going to afford it, and two, you're going to end up like them or like Terrence. But I just think that there's this. Oh man, there's so much there, and there's no knowledge about it. But 2 studies in 70 years, 2 major studies in 70 years on the topic.
It's not enough.
That's nothing.
It's not enough. No.
And
actually,
we're getting a grain of flour, and we're seeing an entire birthday cake, and it's one of the hardest things to do in any emerging science. Yeah. It's like, we know there's something here. This piece of flour goes in an entire birthday cake, so we're trying to tell everyone about the birthday cake. Now we're talking about the party, and we haven't even figured out. Anyways, that was a bad one.
No, I on that, Grant, you know, again, you know, I've been kind of a weenie when it comes to having a breakthrough on DMT. Although I've gotten really close, and on those pre-breakthrough trips, aside from the peak of the trip, I'm always able to open my eyes. And when I open my eyes, it's normally superimposed things. It's not the same experience. Close your eyes, you're somewhere else.
Oh, really?
You open your eyes. For me, anyway, but it varies. It varies.
User interface.
But you both have the rocket effect, like, and what do you think that's caused?
I've never had that.
Caused by?
Oh yeah, the rocket effect is very real, and it happened immediately after accepting the ego death. It happened like the moment you realize that you're not great, the moment you realize that everything about you is that you hold like valuable is kind of like ripped away, and then there's like an onion, like a Star Wars gunfight that you're just. Anyways, once that's gone. You just whoop, and you're looking at the sky. You're looking at some sort of night universe, and you just go, and you go so fast, and you feel yourself getting faster and faster. My ears are popping, you know, boom, 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 boom. And once I blasted through Buddha's face, it's almost like everything about me that was me is gone completely now. And now I'm just this thing. I can't stand talking this way, but there is a moment where you just don't have any memory anymore. Whether it's going there or coming back, you don't have it, like we talked about earlier. But right before you get there, you know that you just went somewhere that you don't exist anymore. Nothing exists anymore. Everything and anything. You might as well be in a God's dream or something. It's completely irrational, completely illogical, and you just are everything. That's the only way I can explain it. Even if someone asks me a question, I won't be able to answer it, but you are everything that you see right now, which is the most disturbing part, because I'm the last person who's going to agree with that. I really don't like that. I feel I just don't want it to be true, but it seriously is like the picture puzzle pattern door people from the Spirit Molecule book, from Strassman's book. It's like, once you've decided, and well, you don't even decide, once you've I have heard people kind of wig out to the point where they just kind of erase what's happening. They can't handle the trip. But once you are on that rocket, good God, you are gone. And you feel like you feel like it's a rocket. You feel. And it's the weirdest thing. My ears hurt when the trip was done. My ears actually felt like I had gone through so many atmospheres of pressure that were exploding. And it's the same concept if you ever do like a nap of the earth in a helicopter and the drop in elevation up mountains going down and in the treetops, your ears are just like you can't adjust fast enough. It's the same thing with scuba diving. You go down fast enough, too fast, you're not blowing air out of your ears. It's gonna hurt, and that's what I felt like. It felt almost identical to pressure, and I don't know. It's one of the greatest. The rocket is better than anything in my opinion. It was one of the. It takes over. You're on a rocket. You don't see it, but you're there.
But you
So
find
many
it
people
exciting?
describe
Is that
that.
because you're an Army guy?
What's that?
You find it exciting? Is that because you're an Army guy?
Well, I am an adrenaline junkie, and I've
Yeah, okay.
almost died so many times that I don't react that way. I mean, obviously, no one wants to die, but I always tell people the same thing. Like, if you're a soldier that deploys enough, that is deployed enough that you can get shot at by the point where you're getting shot at close range, and you're not going, get down. You're doing more of this. Oh my God, you ruined my day. Like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And so you're looking at your buddies like, oh, everyone get down, this idiot. And then you got to go deal with it. And, you know, that obviously not everyone feels that way, because if you're losing people left and right, you're not going to feel that way. But for me, I've got to that point where it doesn't bother me. Like, I have the opposite problem as Chase. I actually find it extremely exciting that you lose complete control. And all I have is control.
And you and the other person that we talked to about this, aside from Desta Duran, it feels the same way. He constantly says, he's always giving me a hard time. Go do it. What are you doing? You're being
it's a roller coaster. It's the best way to describe it. Little kid.
Go do it. I'm going to come over there. I'm going to drive 2,000 miles. I'm going to come over there and to Peru. And yeah. And so,
So let me ask you, Chase, if you had they're talking about the experiment with Strassman and the whole thing with the using the IV. If you had a chance to get into that study, would you do that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and because then you have the added peace of mind that it's in a medical facility and you have RNs and stuff like that around. So even though I think there's enough evidence to demonstrate without any question that, you know, if you do consume an NDMT or 5-MeO DMT and the setting's right, and you haven't consumed any other substances, and you you're not schizophrenic or anything like that, chances are you don't really have anything to worry about. You're always going to come back. You might think it's been 2,000 years. You might think you've died 175 times and been swallowed by an octopus or raped, which incidentally is in one of Strassman's book, raped anally by 2 crocodiles. But you'll be okay when you come back, and it'll only be about 17 minutes.
Yeah. It's a
so
for sure. It's
totally I was going to mention, you know, when Jeff was talking, it occurred to me, I haven't really had this experience of being rocketed away. They, whatever they are, have helped me out of a trip to consume more, and then laid me back down and comforted me while I was coughing my mind out.
And you didn't listen.
And there were these bamboo insect arms that were supporting me and like comforting me, and I had the realization that it wasn't entirely me that sat up and consumed more of this. They helped me do that, and that freaked me out. And then I got out of bed. I'm still not completely back. I go, no, I make the bed and in Peru, and then go that's strange stuff.
I think we talked about this last time, and I want to be clear, because I don't know, obviously I don't know, but I was presented with scenarios that made me nervous about it the first time. I met aliens, you know, I met these figures. One of them was hiding themselves. They seemed very jarring the way they looked. And I often hear these accounts, and I think they put scenarios in front of you to see what you do. You know, are you going to take that other hit? Are you going to actually try to blast off? Like I don't know if this is a real CE5 experience, because I don't get CE5. I don't think I even like it. Okay. But I'm saying that I asked something, I looked up, I saw a meteor, what looked like a meteor flash right to the sky, and this overwhelming feeling to call Chase or tell Chase that don't fear the immaterial ones. Don't fear the ones on the inside. Fear the ones on the outside, because the ones on the outside don't know there's an inside. Like, I have a feeling, I know this is,
That's
I'm trying to
another
make a
thing.
connection here, but what if human beings never chased anything spirituality? We chase the technical evolution, our biological evolution. We try to advance that. We never look at anything spiritual in ourselves. There's a good chance that we become the Borg. You know, there's a good chance that we go out there in the universe and maybe we discover primitive life. Emaybe there are things out there and we are those brutal beings that don't, you know, but that don't know there is that other world. And then there's these ethereal, am I saying that correctly? Ethereal, I don't know, what are these beings that have only progressed in that direction, that have only known that way? They're trying to stop us from going the other way. And that might explain some of these anecdotal visions people have about technology might not necessarily be the answer. But then again, those people end up getting cancer and they need technology to save them. So I don't know what to, you know, I don't know what to think about all. But I think there's something to it. I hope that my theory is correct. I'm sure it's not, but I would like to think that at some point someone is going to help us understand how to not be so human. I know that sounds ridiculous, but we are so animalistic still. Grant, you talk about it a lot, the masculine and feminine. And I was in the military. I feel like that's one of the main reasons why I don't get the contact I might have had before, because my brain is probably a little more jacked up than it used to be. But there is something about ourselves that we've always yearned to be saved from ourselves. That's the beginning of humanity. We've always wanted to be saved from ourselves, and we've never got that. But now it seems like, I don't even want to say it, because I don't actually believe we're actually getting any closer. I think the military thing is all horseshit. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the direction to go is to look for oneself inside yourself, use these contact modalities to get some sort of innate knowledge, these noetic experiences, and keep trying. Don't just, I mean, like me, I'm a failure. I did meditation until I had an experience and I said, that's enough. It's already hard as hell to keep doing it. And I just quit. So, but it's important. I obviously, no one can really, I mean, people can afford it, but it's not easy to go to Peru whenever you want. So you gotta, you gotta make it work. But again, it's all about trial and error. Keep trying, walk the line. Don't become a junkie. At the same time, don't go in there with is it left brain? Which one is the monkey brain? The
monkey brain is left. Yeah.
Don't just go in there and, well, I don't see anything that constitutes as evidence, so I'm out of here. And don't be like our friend that thinks everything is bullshit unless he sees it himself, because then you're like me, who I don't even believe my own sightings sometimes. I live in so much disbelief, that there just needs to be this fine line of understanding this thing. It's completely irrational, but it's real.
Can I ask, what do you think our role is, the four of us, in terms of waking up the world with this? Because there's not that many people doing this, and this will be seen by thousands of people. I guarantee you, thousands of people, and a lot of people will trigger. And I bring up back the thing where they're doing the psychedelics now at Johns Hopkins and NYU and UCLA and stuff. And I say, all they're doing is reproducing what was done in the 1960s, 1950s already. They already knew in the 1950s that 59% of people who took LSD never took another drink in their life. All they're doing is redoing these things, and they're turning it into a money business.
Oh, it's absolutely, yeah.
People and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we're sort of on the leading edge in terms of people will see this and they'll say, hey, I'm kind of interested. Maybe we should go down this road. Do you think that we are like pioneers, that we are here to try to put this out to people? You see, keep trying. And that's what I say is that's why I listen to you. And that's why I listen to Chase. And that's why I listen to Desta, is because I'm trying to figure it out. And you're trying to find people who have done it. Remember, I asked the thing, I had the one psychedelic, the psilocybin experience, really scary experience. I've had it twice, where suddenly I'm talking to somebody who's on a computer.
Oh, yeah.
I said, what the hell? Did you hack reality? And then the first time the guy disappeared. And the second time it was this death threat where this guy was there. And I said, what are you doing? And then the guy was on a computer. It was like a military operation. The guy was on a computer and he said, we've decided to take you off the board. It'll make the game more exciting. You talk about scared. Oh, and that's the whole thing. So, when I put that out to you and say, hey, can you ask people if anybody else ever run into somebody on a computer when they're in the field or whatever? And that's why I think the stuff we're doing is important.
I have.
We may not be solving any problems, but at least we're out there sort of putting stuff out and giving people ideas, and they can transpose their ideas to us. And together we can figure this thing out. We're on the leading edge of something I think is very important.
I'm sure you have something to say here, Chase. I just want to say real quick that I get enough emails and comments and things like that from the show, and sometimes you don't get anything, and people just aren't interested in what you put out. But I think that okay, let's just hypothetically 15% of the world's population was an extremely significant number, extremely impactful, politically impactful if you had it together. If those are the ones that could wake up anyways and they're already interested in this, then yes, I think we're inspiring curiosity. I think that is important job, at least in my psychedelic experience, basically told me, don't stop talking about it. I went all those years when I didn't talk about it. I just kind of talked about my friends, but there is something important about the messages I get from people that are like, I can't believe someone else experienced this. I can't believe this whole entire time I never brought this up because I just thought it was crazy. And here we go. You're on the internet saying this. Maybe I should get on the internet and say, maybe I should start a podcast. And that's what happened to me too. I went on Nick Hunter's show and I said, I'm told basically in a psychedelic trip to do this, keep talking, get the word out. And I realized it's as simple as talking into a microphone. I mean, and what you can achieve with that. I don't know what's going to be achieved. I don't know if anyone will look back at this and say they were right. I just know that some people tell me this actually does help them hearing it. And just like myself, I just sat here all day today talking to people, including yourselves, with all these synchronicities of things that have happened to people, or why, you're bringing up now and they directly happened to me recently. I feel like making these connections is the very first step in making the web, making this whatever you want to call it, Congress, or, to get it going. And it's just going to take a while. For God's sakes, we've spent thousands of years saying it's bullshit. We spent the last 100 years saying it's all fake. And anyone who believes in this wears tinfoil hats. And now we're at the point where we don't want to talk about this too much, but I personally don't think this whole movement with the Navy and stuff like that is anything about the same UAPs we're talking about. I really don't. I don't think they cracked the nut at all. I think they're just as confused as everyone, and they're using their own emerging technologies to kind of hide it. And, but it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, the real deal, and if we stop talking about it, there is zero benefit to the world. Yeah. We could all be wrong, but what would that do? Yeah. What good would it do to quit now and just not tell anyone about it at all? I don't see it at all. So I think it's best just to get the word out there, make these connections, keep people interested, because it's emerging. It's emerging patterns, emerging science, emerging everything. And we're finally giving it a slight chance, even though that's obnoxious to say.
I just want to say, I don't know if anyone here has watched it's a new Netflix show called Midnight Gospel, but y'all should watch it, and so should everyone that listens to this, because I think this is like Grant and I were just talking about on Contact in the Desert, like slow disclosure and how some things are coming out. But I think this is almost the opposite. But it's an animated show on Netflix, and it kind of has they're just like short, maybe 30-minute or something episodes, where it's just like a conversation that you can tell was like a conversation that two people had, and they didn't know how to get it out to the public to make it consumable, kind of to like the Gen Pop kind of thing, right? To regular people, what they're talking about, because they're talking about really like esoteric and weird topics like how we've been talking about. So they just got some animation guy to animate the background, which is absolutely insane, and it looks like it's a DMT trip. Every single solitary episode is the craziest thing, and so how they've like constructed the animated part is basically a guy who is in a different, I don't know where he is, like in a different dimension, and he's just playing a video game every day. So every day he wakes up and he wants to go and have a new reality. So he flips through his computer and is just trying to pick the universe or a planet where he wants to go for the day or however long the trip lasts, but it's like all simulation. So he just like picks like, I'll pick this Earth. Do they have good ice cream there or something? And then he just like pops out, he goes into the simulator and then pops out basically through the portal, and then is like, he's looks different. He picks whatever avatar he wants on that planet, goes there, and then it's like cats that are meowing as they blow into like tubas and stuff. It's the craziest you can imagine, and it's like a multi-level thing, because the conversation is a very intense, trippy conversation. But if you don't even follow for like the Gen Pop, if you don't even follow the conversation that they're having, you just look at the animation, it's exactly, again, like a DMT trip, or what we're talking about, multi-lives, parallel dimensions or parallel universes, or, you getting killed over and over and over, and then still you just like pop back, or like Grant saying with the guy, the computer programmer, kind of the guy eventually ends up getting killed in this universe, however he does, and then pops back into his, armchair where he's just finished talking and, pick the game for the day, the avatar for the day, and the experience he wants to have for the day. And then he goes there and has some trippy conversation. So to be getting it to the masses, like you're saying, Jeff, I just wanted to bring that up because it's, they're trying, I think, and maybe whether it's through downloads, maybe it's not always CIA intervention or government intervention to be doing this soft disclosure. It's actually people like this guy, Duncan Trussell. Sorry, well, I don't even know what I said.
No, I just learned a new one. Usually it's little d, invisible d, big D, small d, soft d, hard d. Jesus Christ.
It's like yeah, we used to say soft disclosure when we were talking about it, but I think that it's also the opposite, where it's, instead of it being government soft disclosure, this is like, comedians being downloaded with information and maybe having new ideas where they can join with an animation team or whatever. So younger people could tune in and stay focused to like a 25-minute show on a very deep conversation that a lot of people wouldn't be interested in because it's maybe boring or they don't get it at all. So they've like concocted some insane visuals that you can be attracted to, so maybe more people will get it and be like, the seeds will be planted into their heads and they'll go, holy shit, what are these people talking about? Maybe they'll only pick up 1 or 2 or 5% of it or whatever, but it's still keeping the ball rolling. So I think that some of this stuff is also is still getting out there and still to the general population through Netflix and stuff like that. And so it's still people, it's still all these ideas and topics or whatever that are coming up and that are getting shared, just the same way that we're doing it. But that's a good show to watch.
Sounds awesome. Because I was just talking to Chase about maybe we should find like an animator to animate our trip stories and stuff, because you watch that Comedy Central trip show and you're just like, this is awesome. This is so great. And it's just, to visualize it is so much better, because anyone could say that they were traveling from planet to planet talking to cats with trumpets, but to see it is something completely different. You're like, holy shit. I'm into all that stuff, and I hope maybe we can get someone there, because I plan on having plenty of trips in the future, so it'd be nice to make like a series. Maybe it's just Chase and I a series of trips. It'd be great to have a catalog of it.
That might be sort of a final type of question. What's the plan? Where are we going from here? What's everybody got planned? I guess I have to get to the States to get this, or go to Peru to get this stuff.
Well, I know that
Chase and I it's a stop. We know a guy that knows a guy that can get you to Peru. So you got to come to the States first, or
it's on the way.
Smuggle us into Canada somehow. That would be preferable.
Like I said again, no one wants to get in trouble for this stuff, and it is being decriminalized slowly, little by little. Of course, decriminalized doesn't mean legal, folks. So please don't say, well, guys on White House UFO and Strange Recon said go try it.
No, it is considered
Washington,
a Schedule
D.C.
1
is now legal, though. Washington,
D.C.
D.C. White House UFO. Washington, D.C. is legal. The people in Washington, all the politicians, it's totally legal. The psilocybin, at least.
Oh, is that right?
I think that maybe even all of them. All of the psychedelics are legal.
Maybe. I don't know. I know they just voted on one of them. I thought it was decriminalized. If it's legal, that's awesome, because I'm right down the street from DC. I'll try to do it right now.
Sense that they don't get anything done.
We need to go visit the president.
We'll all go make a trip to DC.
That sounds easy.
I was thinking about this when you asked your last question, and Jeff and Desta were talking, and I've never had any desire to go out into the public and spread the message. I mean, from day one, and I think we're all more or less on the same level as far as why we're here. I mean, we've had experiences that we know were absolutely real. There's no question whether or not, some of these things can be just explained as normal, mundane kind of daily things. And then the more you research this, the more you realize that there is at least a subset of answers that lie somewhere in this investigation of consciousness, right? Seems to be. So I mean, this is my reason for being here is kind of selfish. I just want to know what the hell's going on, and if I figure it out, then I know other people have had experiences like this too. So I want to talk to those people and you know, and talk to people like Desta, and Desta can say, no, you know, it may have not been an anal probe, Jeff. It may have been, you know, something, a slice of pie. I don't, but
Yeah.
that's why I'm here, and I enjoy.
I know when I eat pie, I think, you know what this is like.
Next step, though, yeah, it's just more investigation. You know, unfortunately, like Jeff said, you know, because you have to go to Peru, and it's, you know, the set and setting have to be just right. Some may have more freedoms than others. You know, personally, I can only go to Peru maybe once every other week. You know, I haven't, and that's without a private jet.
We've destroyed our Peru thing.
Did I destroy it? I don't.
No, we've said it too many times.
And yeah, you're right. But
say Belize from now on.
You know, and then there's a, you know, there are people that can go. It's like kid, you know, I don't know where he was in the world, but that kid that did it like 170 times, you know, for consecutively, 170 days consecutively. There is no way that I could do that. There's just no way. I just couldn't. I couldn't manage that. Some people might be able to, and you're not going to get all the answers from that either, because again, I mean,
well, yeah, that guy. Chase, that guy spent 2,250 minutes doing DMT. So that's a lot of time.
Wow.
That's a lot of time.
It's unreal.
I think
now he claims that there's a whole other civilization there, as Gallimore in Gallimore's Alien Information Theory book thinks that this is a method to shift from this reality to a higher level reality, right?
Yeah.
That kid also claims the same thing, and he claims that they were building him a body that he could shift into and stay there permanently. Every single time, or not every single time, a high percentage of times that I've consumed, I've gotten the impression that they did not want me to leave, even though I wasn't completely connected to them. It's like you start this connection, that the connection's established, right? Dial up, you get the beep and everything, the 56 whatever original modem. It's like that connection is established, and you see them on the other end, and you can tell that they're trying to maintain the connection, and they don't want you to go anywhere. And that's another thing that's always scared me, is I get that impression, and I feel like if they figure out how to maintain this connection, I'm never coming back.
Oh my God.
But maybe that's your real reality, right? Maybe like in the old days, they used to say, this is the dream. So maybe this is us going into the simulator just to have our little win, but we're really back there.
Could be.
That is where you're from. That's why they don't want you to leave, or you feel like they don't want you to leave, or you don't want to leave, because that is reality, and this is just your boring.
I've been saying that.
Yeah, but that's terrifying.
I've been saying that since I was a child. You know, that this is actually heaven. People always. I died as a kid, and I saw all black. I didn't get some crazy mess. I have a loving type of feeling. That's it. All black. When I got back, I was like, since I was like 4 years old, I've never stopped thinking. There's a reason why this is so rare and special. There's a reason why scientists can spend their entire lives looking for life elsewhere, and all they see is the same building blocks that we have right here. But there's a reason why this is special. And maybe I'm wrong, but it feels remarkably like this is the place you want to be. Why do you think everyone is like, I don't want to die? Well, you know, I've never met a man that was dying, and unfortunately I've known some that have said, you know what, I think I've had enough of this place. You know, maybe it's just not the way it is. But to answer, Grant, your question directly, I think Chase and I have kind of agreed that we're in it to get famous. And and you know, he mentioned 15% of the global population. So since we already have like 500 YouTube subscribers, we're only like a couple of days away from that happening. Yeah.
So,
but seriously though, seriously, the thing is this: I would love to be there when we discover something, right? Wouldn't you have liked to say that you like? Of course, you guys have made such an archive here forever. It's going to be on the internet forever, unless the meteor comes. But it's there forever. It's going to be a reference in the past forever, and that's kind of the same concept that I want. I just want to be there alongside fellow experiencers, connect to people, to achieve anything. I don't think it's contact, that's for sure. But maybe it's some sort of like global recognition that maybe the CE5 people are right, or maybe the goddamn time travelers are right, or whatever the hell it may be. Just as long as we're there while it's happening and involved in, because we're dealing with it.
The problem is that you interface with all these people, and Desta, you guys know this way more than we do. And I honestly have I'm curious how you handle it. You interface with so many people, and so many people, everyone has a different perspective, and some are much farther away than others, are completely different. You mentioned Neil's perspective, the demonologist that we've had on the Strange Recon podcast.
God, Chase Williams, his name is not Neil.
Nathaniel. I'm sorry.
Called him Neil for 2 hours.
All the time. I do it all the time. The poor guy. Nate, you can punch me in the face when you meet the first time. I'm sorry. But look, it gets so confusing because you build and build and build a working hypothesis on what you think is going on, and how the UAP incorporates into the consciousness element, and what the choking means, and the probes, or whatever, right? And then you get more input, and as it gets farther and farther away from that hypothesis, it's you move farther and farther away from clearer water into murky water, and then back to clear, and then murkier. So that part of it's really difficult for me, because just when I think I'm starting to kind of understand the basic concept, the whole model changes based on somebody else's input.
I love that part of it, though. I love
do you?
Changing.
It's the worst.
I think we are so insanely far away from understanding that every time it changes, every time my world model or reality, model changes or whatever, I think that is one step closer, because I don't want to stay stagnant in what it is, because I already know it's so insanely different from what I think. That I like hearing other people's stories, because I'll steal I steal the piece of their puzzle that they're saying, holy shit, I never thought about that. That changes everything about the way I think about it. Then I tell that to someone, and their response will be, holy shit, I never thought about that piece. And then it's like, the more, I think the whole point of this, just like we were saying, Grant, on the contact thing the other day, or whatever we were doing the other day, is the sharing. Something was about oneness and sharing. I can't remember. But the whole thing about sharing different experiences and talking about this more with people, I think that's the whole point, is your world model or reality model gets one step closer, but everyone has totally different bits of the puzzle. So as soon as you share it with one person, I'll steal something from your puzzle set, and you steal something from mine, and then the more that we talk to like other different people and then come back and talk again, it's like, oh my God, it feels to me every single time it shifts. I love it shifting for me, because it feels like maybe this is getting one step closer, even though I know we're like, eons away from actually getting close. But I love it shifting, because then that's the new thing I'm focused and obsessed on, and that I can't stop thinking about or talking about. And then that leads me into different puzzle pieces or whatever.
I can appreciate that. Yeah.
Grant, you're on mute.
That's a very awesome and the glass half full way of looking at life, and I could get maybe some help from you, because I tell you what, I don't know what a walking starfish has to do with an out-of-body experience. I don't know what any of these things have to do with each other, but yeah, I guess talking about them does link it together. But
what we can do is, the next time we have our little thing, we can do it sort of in a little bit later, or we can go live online, because we had the one, Desta, remember we had the one with 800 people online, where the people are inputting, and you could have Desta watching the questions and people inputting stuff, where you're actually one-on-one with people, where they're actually, because they love that interaction part, where they can be part of the whole thing, where you go live. We started doing more and more of that all the time, and people simply seem to love it. Where
it's like live TV for them. One of the things I ask people specifically is, what about live? And it's just like well, first off, it's Saturday Night Live. You could fail, you can mess it up, and it's funny. And it's also, it's like they're part of it. They don't, the whole aspect of the production went out the window. They're a part of what's happening live. And asking questions is the fastest way, obviously, to get right. Like, did that guy just say he saw a weird animal when he saw a black triangle? Because that's when I was, what was the lady that messaged me? Someone saw a plaid rabbit after a UFO sighting. A rabbit colored in plaid. It was like a plaid colored rabbit. And I thought, well, I didn't see a plaid rabbit, but God, I mean, I'd see a UFO as a kid, then I'd see a starfish walking in the woods. These connections you're never going to make unless you talk to these weirdos like myself on the internet. I am a weirdo, and I need to hear other weirdos reach out to me. Okay, it's like the only way I can move forward in anything.
That's true. Well, maybe we'll do another one live next time.
Because Desta knows how to do all that kind of stuff. She knows how to make it happen, and you share it on your Facebook, and And that's when things really start to take off, when the numbers start. I couldn't believe that when someone, I think it was 800 people online. I've never seen that.
We can relate. We had about
That's
7 one
ton.
time.
You did?
Really?
Seven.
Oh, seven.
They were extremely
Not
active.
700.
But they were high-ranking people, right? They were high-ranking officials.
Yeah, sure.
I can remember who all they are today right now. They're all really cool. One guy, actually, now that I think about that, just the last thing I want to say, one guy, remember he did that report, Chase, where he took all these lady in white visions from history and found that all of them were accompanied by projecting colors at people. Even the Native Americans said that when these ladies in white,
Yeah,
it would be yellow, green, red, or whatever. And all these accounts from around the world, this random person was like, I watched your show, you're talking about the lady in white. I did a study on this, and it was like a predictive kind of analysis that if you see the lady in white or these entities, you're guaranteed, or someone will likely see like a flashing kind of light thing where like it's the same colors throughout history. Anyway, that anecdote. Yes, but it was great, guys. I got to run, but this is amazing. We almost broke the record with Grant. Remember, we did 4.5 hours with Grant. Remember, we're close.
Oh yeah.
What do we
When
have
we go
now?
live, we'll go 4
3
hours.
hours. We're at 3 hours.
Yeah, okay, that's good. That's a good chunk. That will take me a good week and a half to upload for my boat.
There you go. A question for you, Jeff. What lake are you on?
I'm currently on.
He's on the shore, Grant. He hasn't
going
put
tomorrow. Hey, tomorro's my day. I dropped.
Are you going in tomorrow? Okay,
yep,
good.
I got it all scheduled.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I had
done a lot of work to the boat.
Yeah, it's taken me forever. The boat is basically a brand new boat compared to how I found it. But yeah, going in tomorrow, making my way up north for a little bit, then out Buffalo probably, or maybe through the Mississippi. I don't know. I got to dodge hurricanes. You know, you get in a sailboat, you got to stay away from the East Coast between June and November. So once November's over, I'm heading south into clear waters.
I'm being an idiot here. And when do we leave? The 19th. Get up at July 19th through the 27th. I'm taking everybody to Disney World. So that's
Is that the Florida
so
one?
the Florida one, yeah. So more than likely there'll be like a Cat 8 that hits Florida while we're there.
Yeah, exactly.
Just make sure you get a building where you got it inspected before you go in the building. Don't stay in one of those.
Yeah,
I
right.
lost, I lost one of my boats in
Yeah.
Hurricane Irma.
Seriously. Yeah.
Hurricanes are the worst.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll catch up. I'll be in Desta. Where are you, Desta, now?
I'm in Fort Worth, Texas still.
Oh,
Are you still in
okay.
Texas? Have
Yeah.
you gone to that drive-through?
I
You're
don't
close
have
to
a
Peru.
car.
I know it's
close to
really
Peru.
hot.
Close to
Oh,
Peru.
okay,
That's true.
So close
Down
to
the
Peru.
road from Peru.
Yeah, Juarez,
That's-
Peru. Well, watch out for that one. Maybe don't get him from there.
I'm
no,
going to be in
Yeah.
Arizona and Nevada a couple times. I'll be down that way. Maybe we'll link up somewhere.
I'm telling you guys
Yeah,
right now, I am
absolutely.
about traveling. I told Jason this a million times. I will pick up and get on a plane to go anywhere for this type of subject. I'm not going to be in any conferences or anytime soon in the next 10 years or anything like that, but I absolutely will be. You know, go to these hot spots. I'd love Chase when he finishes his vehicle and stuff. We're gonna have a good fun with that.
Yeah, where I have the CAD designer right now working on the revision to the dash. As soon as I get those CAD models in, I'll have that printed. We'll put the hardware in, and then I'll start to connect the sensors and do the programming, calibration, all that. So getting closer. My goal is to have that finished by February. But you guys, yeah, if you're in the area, I mean, you know, DFW, I'm about 5 hours away from. If
5
you
hours
guys
from
are
where?
from Dallas Fort Worth.
Okay.
Texas
Yeah,
is one of those giant states the size of a country that makes
That's
it impossible to
unreal.
travel
I
anywhere.
drove to Nevada. I drove to Las Vegas a week ago, and it was 12 hours in the state of Texas, and then another 10 hours
That's a flight to Prague.
through New Mexico. and Arizona.
Wow.
So how many hours are you from Phoenix? I'll be in Phoenix in a couple of months.
If I drive, Phoenix is about 16 hours.
16
like
hours.
that.
Wow.
When you, what,
Yeah.
what date?
I
What dates
drive.
will you be in Phoenix? I have friends there. Are you gonna be there? And when you said, Chase? Grant.
I'm going to be there September, middle of September. And I have a week between. I'm supposed to go to LA next for a week later, but then I have a week. So I could skip over to, but there you guys got
You
Southwestern.
probably fly
It's
through
like,
Phoenix to LA, right? Or no? You don't stop in Phoenix to hop over to LA? No,
no, go
straight to
through
LA.
Denver. But I mean,
Oh,
if
Denver.
down there you
Okay.
got Southwest, it's like, $79 for a ticket. So go anywhere there.
Yeah, but then you can't bring your clothes.
Well, I don't need
Yeah,
clothes. I don't
right.
need clothes.
That's completely naked. That's right. Yeah. Let me know. I'm same thing. You know, I used to fly 500,000 miles a year. I don't miss doing that. I don't miss airports, but and I haven't flown since COVID, and I have a feeling that's why I drove to Vegas, because I don't want to mess with that. But I'll eventually have to get back on a plane, I guess. Huh?
I've been on a plane 3 times since, and it's just how you think. Everyone's coughing. No one has COVID. Every cough you hear, you're like, are you trying to kill me? But you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. But yeah, no, I would love that.
Yeah. I just had a bag of almonds before my flight to here or Asheville or something. And as soon as the plane started going, so they weren't going to come by with water and I didn't have any, I started thinking, oh my God, I started coughing and the guy beside me, I'm sure thought I was like dying of COVID. I had to say, like, I just needed to be really fine.
It's almonds.
I promise all the almond dust.
Almond dust, yeah.
I couldn't stop coughing for like 10 minutes.
This was so great. I hope we can do this monthly. This is going to be awesome. I learn something every time I'm here. And honestly, thank you for even giving us the exposure and stuff. And it's obviously huge because we do a show with you guys. We get like another like 20, 30 people come over. They want to talk to us. And you guys have one of the nicer audiences. Okay. I don't know if you realize that. They're pretty kind in comparison to some of the other audiences over there. Okay.
You need Desta to clean house. Have you seen Jimmy Church does that? He's like ruthless. He said, if you put garbage, I will cut you. I will defriend you. I'm not fooling around. I don't need it. So Desta does a little bit of that. She's in behind. That's what you need. You need Desta working for you and behind the scenes.
Well, we are ready for someone to take over.
And, make stuff happen.
Hey. Oh, do you mind us paying you in good intentions? Yeah. Anyways.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll catch up again next month.
Find us at strangerecon.com or strangerecon@gmail. You can email us to contact us there.
Who's your next guest?
We have on Christina Gomez from Paradigm Shift is coming out this Friday, and Project Unity J is coming back on for next Friday. And then we've got a whole slew of really amazing, unique people coming on, like Dr. Michael Masters and stuff with this whole Humans to Gray book that he did, like the evolution, the anthropology of it. And we got a bunch of other great people coming on. Dave Beatty. We have to talk about I wanted to go our entire time podcasting without ever referencing the Tic Tac incident, because you can't type in UFOs or anything without the whole freaking Google page flooding. And so, but now it obviously has to be. God, I'm sick.
You'll get a couple subscribers out of that.
Hopefully, we got a lot of veterans that watch us too, so he does a lot of veteran work. So that's that might be good.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next time. The veterans and psychedelics.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Desta.
Okay, guys.
Talk to you later.
Thanks, Desta.
See you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Grant.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye, guys.
See ya.